On my workbench today, I've got my Redwood Burl and Walnut Telecaster, which was the first guitar I ever built. I haven't done a whole lot with this on this channel yet because given this was the first guitar I ever made, I wanted to make sure that it was good and stable. I wanted to get to know how the guitar played and any other things before I started using this for any demonstrations. And one of the things I wasn't sure about when I started was whether or not this guitar would use a string tree. Obviously, Fender guitars, the Telecaster and Stratocaster almost always have string trees, and that's due to not having a sufficient downward angle on the strings. And so I wanted to see if I could get away with it. It turns out that this guitar does seem to need string trees. It sustains pretty well, and the strings don't pop out of the nut or anything. But when you play it, you can kind of hear this sympathetic, ghost, ringy, clangy type of noise. And what I think that is because there isn't enough downward pressure at the nut. And so what I'm going to do is just show you how I install string trees. String trees usually are sold in pairs. It's not really clear sometimes how they go together. And so what I'll do is just show a brief way of showing how you can mark off your headstock for a string tree and then how to install them. The hardest thing about string tree placement is figuring out where you need to put it on the headstock. And a simple trick that I use is to keep the guitar strung but loosen the tension on the strings that you want to put the tree on, and then tape that down. What this is going to allow us to do is to see the path that the strings are going to be on, while also having them, pressed down to the headstock. And this way we can make sure we center up our hole for when we want to put the string tree down. With the string tension low enough, I can now take a piece of tape and put it over the B and E strings. So now I have my piece of tape holding the guitar strings down, and what I can see is that on the neck side the strings are still parallel. I've tried not to pull the tape too hard. They're mostly parallel here. The important thing is we're going to try and hit the middle. The strings don't have to be exactly perfect, but we want to get close. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my first string tree approximately right here. I'm not sure if I'm going to put a second string tree for the G and D strings, but I'll start out by putting this first one in because I definitely know I need an E and B. And so I'm going to take a 1/16 of an inch drill bit and put my hole in. It doesn't need to go very far. It's really just a pilot hole. Certainly we don't want to drill so far that we go through the back of the headstock, but we just want to put a small hole there so that we don't strip out our screw or we don't create any cracks in the neck. And that should be enough of a hole. And so now what we can do is string trees, as I said, usually are sold in pairs. And what you can see sometimes is they come with two different spacers. One is taller and one is shorter. It's the shorter one that goes with the E and the B strings, and then the taller one that goes with the G and the D strings. And so what I'll do now is just take my screw, put my string tree on, and put my spacer, and then screw this down. With the string tree in place, now we can put the two strings on it to make sure that it's aligned. It looks pretty good. And now the biggest thing is just to tension up the strings and then go play again.